now you're seeing the screen. I'm here today to talk to you about three key topics. So first off, probably most of you are here because you've seen a explosion of new research tools in the last year or two, and particularly we're seeing new tools in the qualitative space, and that's what we're going to focus on today, is more in-depth research as opposed to just straight mobile survey tools, which I would probably need to do 20 new survey research tool webcasts to cover the survey tools that are hitting the market, particularly in the mobile space. But we're going to focus on qualitative tools. Why are we seeing such an explosion of qualitative tools? What are they? How are they used? So we're going to go through each of those five in a little bit of depth, and then kind of when should you in your organization consider using them. So the first thing, just to get me grounded on who I have on the call, I wanted to do a poll on what your primary business is. So I think, Jean, are you going to pop up that poll for everybody? And I'll just wait a second here and let you guys fill out the answers, and then we'll publish it back to everybody so you can see. I think that's how it works.
3/4 of the way there.
All right. So it looks like we have about half of you in market research or consulting positions, about 7% in consumer goods and almost 20% in B2B goods or services, and another 10% in education or membership organizations. So a nice mix, and I'll try to make sure that I'm covering those bases as we think through each of these tools. So the first question, why are there so many new mobile and social research tools? Well, most of us as marketers at the end of the day are really responding to our consumers, the end market of users. And so this is some data from 2012, and believe it or not, it's a couple years old, but basically the adoption rates have really matured, so there's not a lot of change in these numbers these days, although social media use continues to grow, not at a huge rate as it did in the previous few years. So we've got 163 million US households that use social media, 46% of them, and actually now over 50% are using them on their mobile devices. And essentially, people are spending more time on social networks than any other category of sites. So we've got consumers, they're online, they're on their mobile device, they're engaged with brands, and they're engaged with them socially on these sites. And I think you've got 17% of consumers' time spent on Facebook, so literally the most popular web brand in the US. So you get a really good sense here that social media has actually driven a lot of mobile and computer and tablet usage, and that's a key component here of what we see in the trends in the qualitative research space. So what are consumers doing on social media that's leading us to think we should bother with market research? Because if they're just engaging and want to shop and they don't want to do research online, then you know, that would be a different story. But what we see is that consumers are on social sites, they're listening, but they're also engaging with brands and products. They're providing feedback, they're complimenting a brand, and they're receiving incentives and rewards, all things that you would associate with research behavior. So that's a key part of why the expectation is that really research will evolve to match consumers' behavior, and even the qualitative piece of traditional focus groups or in-depth interviews. You know, some are saying, well, that should all be happening on our mobile device. Well, the reality today isn't necessarily the case. So what we have seen is online tools creating quite a few different opportunities to get consumer insights. So, for example, just from a listening perspective or looking at how consumers engage with brands on social, you can determine their lifestyle, their media habits and interests, and that's very useful information. So, for example, if you have a private Facebook group that you create with your customers, you can get some sense as the person moderating that of what actual brands they like and what their behaviors are. So that's one example. Companies are engaging with consumers in things like having them upload YouTube videos or doing research on Pinterest, things that allow them to get exploratory information about how consumers are behaving today. So the video that you see up there of the dogs is actually a research study that was done among pet owners in a very, very low incidence market that feed their pets raw pet food. And so that's the mom feeding her dogs at 5:30 in the morning when she fresh ground them some meat. The third bucket down there, idea generation, you see the Lego Kuso site. We've all probably heard, crowdsourcing and co-creation, and that kind of activity is happening online today. So the Lego Kuso site is really pretty amazing because people come in and they propose their new Lego idea, and people can vote on it, and if they get over 10,000 supporters, Lego will actually consider developing and launching their product, and if they do, they actually give that person who designed and developed that initial idea 1% of the sales proceeds. So pretty exciting opportunity for consumers and a great demonstration of how the world of getting in-depth insights collides with the world of marketing, because there's a whole lot of data that you can get out of engaging and co-creating with your customers on that large of a scale or even on a very, very small scale. And then finally, there's just general feedback. So here you see a post on the Holy Guacamole site saying, hey, we have this idea. We'd love you to take a look, tell us if you like this, or fill out this survey, or whatever it is. But all of these basically online tools and social media tools have provided opportunities to get feedback. However, it's the adoption of that, continues to grow, maybe not as quickly as some folks originally thought. So what is creating the tipping point today where now we're seeing this movement from something I'm interested in to something that people are actually behaving and acting on? And essentially it's three, in addition to consumer trends, there's three business trends that's making this worth our time and money to do. So the first one is crowdsourcing, which I've mentioned. There's demonstrated effects of lowering costs and increasing productivity when you crowdsource or co-create with your customers, your vendors, your internal folks, and so organizations are recognizing that that is money well spent. The second is really this co-creation piece of recognizing that when companies work with their customers, that real and sustainable value is created. So if an organization is to maintain, to continue to grow, or even to continue to serve their customers and not be upended by some new competition, they need to be in engagement with their customers, not on every activity of their business, not just generating ideas. And so that's really where co-creation has gained quite a bit of traction. And then even moving farther into the lean startup space and lean and agile methodologies, which probably many of your organizations have been affected by in terms of product development, even design thinking if you're in the software space. But the essential, or any space really, again, the concept here is that companies can get to market faster and more productive using lean and agile development methods. And what those methods propose isn't just once a year getting feedback from your customers or co-creating or crowdsourcing every once in a while, but to do it on a systemic, ongoing, continuous basis. And so all of those things collided with the fact that consumers are on social media, online, on their mobile devices, wanting to engage with brands. And by the way, you need to engage with them now more often, more rapidly, and you probably don't have more budgets than you had last year. How do you do that? And that is really the power of where these new qualitative techniques come into play. So today, where do we stand? This is from the Green Book Grit report that came out last month. Some of you might have seen me present on a panel presenting those findings. If you're interested in more in-depth findings on the Green Book Grit report, just send me a follow-up. We can give you the links to the videos of that panel discussion and also the report itself, which is, I think, 100+ pages, so it's a pretty big report. But essentially, in terms of the organizations that filled out the Green Book Grit report, a lot of which are large organizations, but a mix of, I think, 700 and some odd companies. Essentially, today, we do see growth in mobile qualitative. We do see growth in using online communities, which are a little bit more social media oriented, to do qualitative, but the bulk of qualitative research today is still being done via traditional in-person focus groups or IDIs or telephone interviews. And so we're going to talk about, as we look at these new tools today, we're going to talk about what role they can play in your organization and whether they replace these tools or supplement them, or where they might be most valuable to your organization. So why aren't all of you here today using mobile tools and online communities? And unfortunately, they didn't have the data for mobile qualitative. They only had the data for mobile surveys. But essentially, the limitations here for mobile was lack of proof that it works and technology limitations. And I can tell you qualitatively from the QRCA, the Qualitative Research Consultants Association conference that we attended in October, that those are definitely the case for mobile qualitative, in addition to, I think, some concerns about the level of engagement you can get on a mobile device for in-depth type of questions. So that appears to be the primary limitations there. And then online communities, really budgetary constraints are a big piece of why companies are not using online communities today, and a bit of fear of trying something new. So if any of you have used many of the online community tools that have historically been the case, such as Communispace, which I think has been around for almost 15 years now, it's a six-figure kind of commitment to do that kind of work typically. So there's a big barrier to entry. And so some of the tools I'm going to be sharing with you today are much more economical and really open up the possibility for more companies to look at online communities. So essentially, what we see is a lot of online tools becoming more inexpensive, moving away from kind of this 4 to 6 week research cycle to something that's either really fast, so I can do a study in 2 days, 3 days, or ongoing. I can engage my customers and I can reuse that sample over a period of time. Moving to things that are more time-saving as opposed to the intensity of time, particularly for qualitative. Moving from complex to simple, I think this is a huge opportunity, and I'll show you some technology and kind of the differences in easy versus complex to set up and what that might mean for your organization and your ability to ramp up on the platform. Again, moving from things that are really time-consuming to analyze to giving you tools that make the analysis more intuitive. Getting away from some of the technology limitations, being device agnostic is kind of the hot topic today in terms of qualitative, so that it doesn't just work on an iPhone or just work on an Android device. And then this idea that you can either be in social media or you can do kind of a bulletin board focus group. I think what we're seeing today is tools that are social media oriented as well as secure, and so that's really a huge kind of mind change in the industry to move towards that type of community discussion that feels like the social media experience that I'm used to having. So let's get right into the actual set of tools we're going to be talking through today. We've got DScout, which is a mobile qualitative tool, Gut Check, which kind of claims to do this instant, quick turnaround research, Recollective, which is online research tool, Zimra, which is more of that enterprise social software, but they're trying to make it more economical, and then DigSite, which is more of a social media oriented, but also online community platform. So we're going to get to our next poll question. Have any of you tried any of these tools? So let's just get a sense of where the audience is today. See the answers coming in here. I'll give you another minute or so to respond. I know there wasn't a none of these box because there's only 5 answers we can do in our polling tool. So if you've used none of them, that's okay. So I think we'll go ahead and close it here. We've got about 15% of you have tried Gut Check and 8% who've tried Recollective, and a couple of you with DScout and a couple of you with DigSite, and no Zimbra users. So that kind of gives you a sense of where the audience is today. So we've got a couple of users that might be able to even answer on some of these platforms better than me. So let's first chat about DScout, which is a mobile qualitative tool that essentially allows you to ask a scout, one of your customers or vendors or whoever it is, to go to possibly a store or at home and fill out and complete a specific activity on your mobile device. So here what you see is the tool asking the question, what category does your discovery best fit into? So then kind of you can answer basically a survey question, you can upload a photo, and then you can kind of see the answers for this particular participant to the set of kind of 4 or 5 questions that they would consider as a kind of an activity. So essentially this platform kind of allows you to basically kind of pay per the person and per the activity to get all information. So if you're looking to get field work done, for example, like I said, have someone go to the store and take a picture of what they're buying, or I take a picture of their breakfast, kind of ethnographic kind of insights, this tool can get you some of those kinds of findings. It is a mobile-only tool, I believe. So here is another screen from them that kind of shows you how you would then set this up. If you subscribe to the platform, basically you would kind of build a mission and ask people, again, to kind of create these specific activities. So they have a case study on their site where they talk to 30 scouts and for 5 days, and each scout did 5 snippets, so I'm assuming those are kind of the tasks or questions they asked. And then you can kind of see their little background here. We'd like to just get ideas for planning for holiday shopping, submit photos and commentary to share us your holiday shopping planning, and then basically, this is what the participants are told to do over the next 5 days, get snippets of holiday shopping strategies. So you can see how you might be able to kind of collect some of that field work that might have been done in person following people a lot more economically and maybe easier than a diary. So pretty interesting set of technology. Obviously, I don't think this would replace a focus group, but it might supplement other qualitative research that you might be doing. The next tool that we're going to talk about is gut check. The essential kind of concept, gut check is actually kind of more of a kind of a full service company that's that is basically trying to offer you a relatively quick way to get feedback from your customers. They can recruit people pretty instantaneously, bring them into the community right away, and it's kind of like an online forum where they can ask questions and get feedback to concepts that kind of thing. So here they have an example, product concept refinement and testing. They have 48 hours to get insights on product concepts. So the client had 5 different product concepts, and they wanted to understand how much people like the name, the design, the fragrance, the claims, and so they were able to kind of recruit a group of people and ask them a set of questions over a period of just a couple of days, and I think within 2 weeks kind of had a report, as opposed to, say, a month or, like I said, 6 weeks to do a traditional focus group. So that gives you a sense of gut check's approach. They I think have both a one-on-one platform where each person answers individually, as well as maybe a way for people to see each other's answers and engage asynchronously. So as they come in is, I believe, how it's working. The next tool I'm going to talk about is Recollective. This is an online research platform that is interestingly trying to open up their platform for kind of more the mass market, for, as they call it, non-researchers, with their baseline product. And so I thought this was kind of an interesting strategy. But essentially what they have is an online community tool where you can essentially create activities that, again, you have participants complete, kind of like D-Scout does, except theirs is more kind of PC oriented. And so you can kind of sort of see on this screen, you can have people upload photos or video or answer discussion questions and kind of get at some of the why. You can see kind of on the right here a whole bunch of different things you can do in terms of getting participants in and sending them messages and so forth. And here you can see you can have open-ended text or photos or videos or polls, or have people look at videos or sort and rank activities. So this is not quite social media experience, but it does kind of give you all of those online kind of tools that you would typically get, say, through a bulletin board type study, in a format that maybe you could recruit yourself. Now the baseline product is interesting in that it's based on an advertising model, so I'm not sure I'm 100% clear on how that would work in terms of if I've got a community like this one's on bicycles, that I would have my competitive bike companies advertising while I'm trying to collect research data. That seems a little bit awkward. But from what I can tell, it is their baseline anyway is based on an advertising model. They do, but this kind of gives you their case study, which is a local bike shop puts their ad up and basically invites their bike shop customers to come in and look at the ad before they publish it and make sure that they think that it's a good ad, essentially. Now and one other benefit that Recollective has is they do have their more premium product, which I have some pricing information here at the back that's just really rough. You'd probably need to contact them to find out. But they do have the ability to do things in multiple countries and languages. So at a much higher price point, obviously, than their baseline product. So Zimbra. Zimbra is actually kind of your traditional enterprise social software. So if you're one of the either B2B or B2C folks that were are attending today, Zimbra would allow you to create a branded community for your customers, essentially. And it would be kind of like your own private Facebook, essentially, where you could set this up, skin it however you want, and engage with your customers yourself using your own maybe social media team. And so this is kind of just an example of, again, how the site is designed to look and feel a little bit more like social media, where you have people can upload photos, or they can use icons, and then post a question, and then respond to the questions. So you can kind of see here how this is generally set up to be very similar, like and comment, very similar to maybe a Facebook experience. And the downside is this is a set of instructions that I downloaded to get a free version going. And as you can see here, I needed to know some HTML in order to get Zimbra up and running, and so I never actually got to the point where I was able to get their free license going. I have used their prior product called Telligent. That was a paid platform, but I did need to pay an IT department to get that set up and skinned for me. So here is an example of Titleist, who set up their own Zimbra community, and you can see here how they skinned it to be, their brand. And then here you can see they have some blogs and some other things that are associated, and then activities that are happening now. And then they have some forums within this that you could kind of do, say, research discussions or research forums within. So this really, as they say, pushes the limits and lets them really create a high-quality experience for their brand fans. So this is it's specifically oriented toward marketing, but I think companies who are looking to create a research based community could consider using these same set of tools. So hopefully this is really kind of giving you a sense of the diversity of opportunities that you have to engage qualitatively online. And some companies are basically creating these communities and then pulling off smaller groups of them to engage with them in a qualitative discussion. So sometimes these kind of communities can have hundreds or thousands of folks in them. So the last example, very selfishly, is DigSite. And essentially what DigSite is really designed to do is to create kind of the best of all of these things together, in the sense that we are creating a community-based forum that looks and feels a lot like Facebook. So here you can see a discussion. Thank you for joining the pet food panel. We're looking forward to getting to know you. And participants can come in and write a description. They can like each other's comments. They can upload photos and videos. And as the moderator, you can tag things and things like that. Very simple, meant to be basically as fun and easy to use as Facebook, and meant to be device agnostic. So it works on your mobile device, it works on your tablet, it works on your computer. And really economical platform. So something that you could do a single community for $1,000 for a month, or you could get an annual subscription for $5,000 a year. So a fraction of the cost of enterprise communities, and essentially giving you that opportunity to do something akin to, say, a bulletin board, but instead extended over a period of time. Rather than just having that going for a couple of days, you could have a community going for weeks or more. This just shows you an example of kind of some of the tools that DigSite has, similar to what you might have seen with that Recollective product. We have a survey tool where we allow each question within the survey to be public or private. So if it's public, it pushes out to the community so everybody can see it. If it's private, only you, the moderator, would see the results. Also, you can see here a participant uploaded a photo, and the participants can upload video as well. You can also upload photos and video, so you could upload a concept here, pop your survey off to the right, and have them answer questions about your specific concept. So it gives you kind of a sense of how DigSite works. DigSite is designed to be a qualitative community, and that means that on average people have between 35 and 50 people participate in a DigSite community, although it can be as few as 8 to 10 or larger if needed. This is an example of our whiteboarding option, which allows you to upload an image, and here you can actually, participants can drag likes, dislikes, and comments onto the image and write those. And they're actually kind of encouraged to write a comment for each plus, minus, or question mark that they put. They can also give that concept an overall rating, and you can combine that with survey questions and other things to get feedback. The other thing that you'll notice with DigSite is there's kind of the Twitter to the Facebook on the left that allows participants and moderators to know what's going on and give them some tips and tools for getting the most out of their DigSite experience. So a quick case study for DigSite. Essentially, this company was looking for basically to go and take their production from third-party co-packer to internal. They had about 3 months until they were going to market. They had about 8 weeks to get feedback on their product. Now what happens when they were going from outsourced to insourcing is that they needed to change their product formulations. And of course, to do that, you need to change your ingredient label. And so they really wanted to get feedback on their packaging, on their logo, on their brand positioning. They also had some new concepts they wanted to show. They wanted to have people try their products and formulations, and even react to some ad ideas. So over the course of, in their case actually 8 weeks, they went through this entire process to get to a relaunched product, something that historically would have taken 3 or 4 focus groups, some product testing and so forth, all as separate research steps. They were able to combine into a single project and complete for under $30,000, and that included recruiting and incentives and everything. So a really economical way to get at a whole bunch of information from your customers relative to traditional qualitative. And in fact, one of the things that we've seen with DigSite is the emergence of multimodal. So someone does a focus group, or maybe they do 4 focus groups and they take those 35 people into a DigSite to continue the conversation. Or they start a DigSite with 35 or 50 people, and then they take the 6 or 12 out and they do ethnographies with them. Because DigSite works on your mobile device, similar to DScout, you can have people go in the store and take pictures or upload videos in the moment, in addition to having them when they get home at night have an in-depth discussion with you. And so we see kind of a mix of activities, and essentially we see DigSite as kind of an all-around platform to get at engaging with your customers in a format that they're really familiar with, which is something that looks and feels a lot like social media, other social media sites. So just to kind of sum it up before we get to the Q&A, we have this kind of quick comparison guide that hopefully will help you think about, well, when would I want to use each of these platforms? Because you may find all of these to be useful for different applications for your organization. So DScout is really targeted toward this in-context research. From what we can tell, they advertise on their site $6 per mission per person, and that's just to use the tool. That doesn't include recruiting or incentives or anything like that. They typically see the research being done over 2 to 5 days, and that's kind of the do-it-yourself pricing, but it looks like they are now offering recruiting and some full-service kinds of services as well. Gut check is really kind of to do an in-depth interview or kind of group feedback, again, quickly. from the customers that we've talked to that have used the platform, it sounds like the pricing is around $6,000 per day, time frame 1 to 5 days. They do have the ability to do multiple languages, and their product is full service. I do think they might have some limited service, but I don't think you can set up a gut check yourself completely. I think there's kind of a tandem between you and gut check if you're a market research agency. Recollective, again, it's kind of this group discussion. Their baseline product is free for 50 participants, but again, they do advertising, so I'm not quite sure that's quite designed for market research. Time frame, again, kind of you could do really 3 days to ongoing kind of thing, multiple languages, and this is a do-it-yourself platform. And then Zimbra, I think, is really kind of focused towards these branded communities where you really need to invest some IT time in getting them set up. They offer basically this free 60-day trial, but like I said, you expect to spend some time to get that up and running. I know their pricing from a few years ago. The very, very base lowest pricing they were offering was $15,000 a year for that subscription. I don't think that gave you a whole lot of people, but just to give you a sense, they would obviously know pricing better than I would. Typically, really based on ongoing communities, and again, kind of something you think about your IT department helping you implement. And then finally, DigSite, really we see kind of as an all-around tool for both discussion with your customers as well as co-creation, crowdsourcing, getting feedback. Again, our pricing is really straightforward, $1,000 for a month. That's up to 100 people in a single community, or $5,000 annual license, and in that case, you can have multiple communities. We really see DigSite working best when you engage people for a week or more. That's typical. We have had people interested in using DigSite for the very shorter time frames, and I think that's doable, but from a community standpoint, it's really great if you engage people over a longer periods of time. Right now we are English only. Hopefully that will change in the next year or so. And we allow you to do it yourself, but we also have a set of partners. So we have a set of moderators who have experience on the platform, who, if you're one of those B2B companies or consumer packaged goods companies that are looking for moderator to help you, we can partner you up and they can provide all the services for you, or you can get the license yourself and have your internal team do it, or a combination thereof. We've seen all sorts of creative engagements all along the line there. So our last poll question, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Which types of tools do you think would be valuable for your organization? So this kind of concept of enterprise social software, the Zimbra approach, the social insight communities such as DigSite, the instant research community, the gut checks of the world, the traditional online research tool like Recollectives, or the mobile qualitative, DScout. And looks, yeah. Got about half of you that have voted. We'll give it just a few more minutes here. I say a few more minutes, I probably mean a few more seconds, but all right, I think we'll close it up there. Looks like not very many of you interested in Zimbra, the enterprise social software, only about 4%. I scared you off with the HTML page, didn't I? The social insight communities DigSite, almost 60%, about half for gut check and about half for Recollectives and half for DScout. So looks like a number of these tools look like they might be valuable for your organizations. So I think what we'll do now for the last few minutes here is open it up for any questions that folks have. Jane, have you seen any questions come in?
We've gotten some questions have come in, and please feel free to type a question into that question box on the control panel on the right side of your screen. But I'll start with some of the ones that we have gotten. One question asking, why would I use DigSite instead of a Facebook branded page?
Absolutely. So one of the issues with Facebook and all social sites, so that includes um, Google Plus, whatever, they all have the ability for you to create private groups. Just be leery of what private means in their space. So the first thing is that if you upload a photograph, they actually own the copyright to that photograph. The second thing is that they have the right to sell that data to your competition. They don't even claim to have to aggregate it. All they have to do is disguise who the person is that made that post. So essentially any market research that you're doing on a public social media site is essentially not secure. And the other thing is that participants in traditional social media sites can't be anonymous. So if you're doing something in healthcare or financial services or one of those industries, people can't protect their identity on those public social media sites. So those are all reasons you might consider DigSite versus one of the free social media sites that are public.
Okay, great, thank you. There was a question about, some of this we may have covered since the question was asked, but can you provide rough or ballpark costs, which some was covered, and like sharing with us incentives, et cetera, so some information there.
Yeah, I think each platform has its own approach to incentives, but essentially in all cases the incentives are significantly less than in-person research. So for example, with DigSite, you may pay someone a $25 incentive to participate for a week or $50 incentive to participate for a month. You may actually provide in-kind incentives like sending them free product. And in some cases, if they're customers or if they're fans, you may not even need to provide anything except for the occasional drawing or other kind of fun activity. So it depends a lot on what you're doing, but essentially it's typically pretty significantly less than in-person research.
Okay, great. Just a question asking generally, what about typical online research tools like SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics? How do they fit in with some of what we're talking about here today?
Sure, there's actually so interestingly enough, one of the challenges about survey tools and really quantitative tools in general is that they don't help you get to the whys very well. So oftentimes we conduct a survey and then we come out of that survey with a whole bunch of questions and we don't have a way to get back to people and ask those follow-up questions. And so what some companies are doing is conducting a survey, say a SurveyMonkey or a Qualtrics survey with their entire customer base just to ask them some general questions to find out if they'd be interested in participating in an online community and then following up with those folks. So I think even in terms of thinking about the multimodal, we've done a lot of work, or we've seen a lot of our partner moderators do work where they'll do a survey of several hundred people and then they'll pull out the 35 or 50 that are most relevant to them to keep the conversation going. So I think those things can definitely work in tandem, but you get a lot richer insights when people can respond back and forth, when they can see each other's responses as well and be able to respond to each other's responses and upload photos and video, all things that really aren't possible through traditional survey tools.
Great. Question here. Do you, and I guess I'm assuming this is asking about DigSite, but I'm not sure, do you enable anonymous participants, like allowing each person to choose a pseudonym or an image, an avatar, something like that?
Absolutely. So what we do at DigSite is allow people to upload an image of their choosing, and so if you want them to be completely anonymous, you can actually ask them to upload a specific type of image, or you can just tell them not to upload an image, and they have that option too. Automatically their names are truncated to the first name and first initial of their last name, so there's not a capability for anybody to see last names ever within DigSite, but we have seen companies actually assign people pseudonyms with their invitation process so that everybody kind of gets their name and avatar assigned through the email invitation, and then they just use those when they log in. So absolutely.
Okay, great. Are millennials responsive to these tools or not easy to reach?
That is definitely one of the key advantages of these kind of tools. We have done several millennial type communities, and we find the engagement rates are actually higher among the millennials. They love it. They're so familiar with social media sites. They're very quick to engage. They write a lot, and it's one of those groups that's very hard to reach in person and very easy to reach online and through social. They're just that's how they want. In fact, there was some data that Nielsen published that said that millennials actually prefer to give feedback on products on social media over any other platform. So to them, this is how they want to engage with brands. But to the other extreme, we have done communities among seniors and have not seen issues. We've seen some issues with them getting on initially or figuring out how to upload a photo maybe, but they really enjoy the experience as well, and I think not having to travel and to be able to do things from the comfort of their home really makes a difference for them as well. So we've seen really a strong response across demographic groups.
Okay. Great, thank you. Any thoughts on pros or cons of each platform when it comes to recruiting participants?
Sure. I think that DScout just started offering recruiting. Up until then, I think you had to provide names, so I'm not quite sure how that's working for them or what they're paying participants per activity. I think GutCheck has relationships with all the traditional panel recruiting companies, so your sample is kind of probably pretty reflective of panel companies, which I think you guys know. Sometimes you have kind of professional respondents in those type of places, and we've even seen we do some of that recruiting for DigSite, and we've kicked people out who are wanting payment to international accounts. You know, so you kind of have to watch out and be careful about quality of recruiting. One of the things that we've started doing at DigSite is actually some social media based recruiting. If some of you may be aware of this, but if you've ever done advertising on Facebook, they have an incredible amount of data on their Facebook users, and they're able to micro-target. And so the people who get invited to the Dig site are literally people who we've behaviorally qualified. They've either liked a particular type of brand or engaged in a particular type of activity that Facebook can verify. And that's been a really useful way to make sure that we're getting the right participants in the community. But again, I think, you know, all these platforms probably have some capability to bring in quality participants. I know some platforms recruit from your social site, so from your Facebook fan page, which may or may not be who you're looking to bring in. So I think that's a discussion you need to have with, you know, each vendor or with your moderator that you prefer to work with about, you know, who you're going to get in the community, whether it's branded or unbranded, and you know what incentive is required, because obviously some groups like physicians are going to require a lot higher incentive than say your brand bands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another asking kind of comparing across platforms in terms of ease or difficulty and expense. I know you touched on some of that in the chart that you showed, but
Sure. So essentially, I think again, I think DScout and DigSite are probably look like the easiest to get up to speed on in using. Since GutCheck is full service, you're paying a bit more. But you know, the only complaint I've heard about GutCheck is just they call you too much. So I think, you know, they're going to set that up for you. So that's fairly useful. Recollective looks to me to be a bit daunting in terms of the number of screens that you have to click through to create an activity. So it might take you 10 or 15 minutes to set up a single activity, whereas in something like DigSite it might take you 2 or 3 minutes to set up an activity. Zimbra, I mean, I can say from my experience with Telligent, which was their prior evolution of this, is fairly easy to use but hard to set up and get started on. And then they just have really antiquated screens for administrative functionality. It has every function known to man, but just might take you an hour to figure out how to find it. So that's probably on the hardest to use end of the spectrum of these products.
Okay. I have a comment here, not a question, just mentioning another product that this person thought might be relevant to this audience, mentioning there's a company called Mind Swarms that does qualitative research via mobile video surveys, and they do recruitment. They're global. So just another offering that's in a related area that we didn't quite touch upon here.
Yeah, and there is actually quite a few other tools that we didn't evaluate today. I think that's one of the things that you can expect to see from us in the next month or two is a more comprehensive guide to qualitative providers and methods. So keep your eye on emails from us, and we will try to keep you apprised on who the different offerings are, what the pros and cons are. We see that as benefiting everybody to kind of be aware.
Okay. Recruitment seems to be a theme for today, because another question just about which, if any, of these tools is recruitment friendly, I guess. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Monica, to what you've said already on that.
Sure. Well, I can explain to you how recruiting works on DigSite, and I'm guessing that these other platforms have some of these options, but maybe not all of them. So for example, in DigSite, you can choose to upload a list of emails. So maybe you already have a list of customers, you just want to upload the list of emails and send it out, similar to what you might do with something like SurveyMonkey. You can do that in DigSite. You can also generate a link to a DigSite invitation, which you could actually post to your Facebook page to recruit out of your Facebook fans. You could post it to your website, so people hit your website, they get invited. You could put it out in your own email to your own list, and they could click that link and get through and see the invitation and the instructions, fill out a set of questions that qualify them for the community, and then either auto-accept them into the community or put them in a queue for you to review and approve them. So that all can happen within a platform like DigSite. You can send custom emails through the platform itself. It's very easy to communicate to participants both within DigSite and outside of the platform. So some of these platforms may offer you one or the other of those two things. They can take your list and put it in, or they can work with a recruiting company. I don't know how many of them offer you that ability to just create your own link to put on your own site to get invited and get in. I think that Zimbra probably offers that capability as well.
Okay. Okay, so somebody's commenting that all of the MROCs, the marketing research online communities they've done have been with Dub, which is a particular supplier, a particular company. Do you know of an industry source that allows us to compare or contrast suppliers across this evolving space? Your chart, the chart we provide here, is a beginning.
Yeah, and the answer is no. And in fact, we've been kind of shocked at DigSite that even the directories that are out there don't seem to really categorize this space very well at all. So it's hard to even uncover who all the players are. We're familiar with Dub. They are a full-service provider. They're fairly expensive, but they offer quite a bit of functionality. And I've heard folks be fairly happy with their services. So there are a plethora of them. We hope that we can start to get more of this documented and get this information to you, because we think it's valuable, again, for everyone in the industry to be aware and familiar with the different tools. We hope that DigSite is part of the set that you'll consider, but we recognize that there's probably multiple tools that you all are going to be using over the next few years, and we think it's important to be able to evaluate these platforms in a realistic manner.
Right. Okay. And one more question here. Just what options are there to get started? What options are there to get started with one of these products to kind of check it out?
Sure. So for DigSite, we offer a 30-day free trial. So you can go to our site right now, click free trial, type in your email address. We'll get you a login within probably the next day or so. So you're welcome to just dig right in and get started. We also have demos and training sessions. Either way that you'd like to go. If you just want to see a demo and try it yourself, if you're a moderator and want partner training, we can do that, or we can hook you up with a moderator that can help you as well. I think Zimbra, as I said, has a 60-day free on theirs. Recollective Baseline, again, has this free where you can try 50 participants, but you probably aren't going to end up wanting the baseline product, so they know that's just a way to get you to evaluate the platform. I do not believe GutCheck and DScout have a free trial. So hopefully that gives you a sense, but you can go to each site and check it out. And I think that.
And one more question. We've got just another minute or two here.
Okay.
Can I, specifically to DigSite, can I buy DigSite by the project, for example, 1 month at a time, or do I have a minimum number of months commitment?
Sure. You can buy DigSite one project at a time. Basically, you're spending $1,000 for a single community and you have that license for 30 days. Or you can buy multiple communities or multiple months, or you can flip to your annual. So there's a lot of flexibility in the way that our pricing is set up, and it's all published and out there for everybody to see. So there's no confusion. We do provide recruiting services, so if you need us to recruit participants for you, we can provide a bid for recruiting specific to your project. If you have any other, kind of DigSite specific questions for this group, Jane or I will be happy to follow up with you on this call, or like I said, get you set up in one of our weekly, actually it's twice a week training, a demo webcast.
I think our time is just about up here.
Thank you so much for attending today. Really appreciate you being here. And again, we'd be happy to help in any way that we can. And thank you again.
Okay, thank you.